Everybody here this morning for our third annual Chamber breakfast and business meeting. So we just want to thank everybody for being here and thank all of our members this past year that have helped support us and just been right there alongside us to help this thing grow and move forward. So we want to thank every one of you guys, and we want to thank our sponsors for helping this event happen, for United for providing the drinks and the coffee and orange juice, and McDonald's for providing the biscuits and gravy. I hope those taste pretty good going down. I bet they will. So I'm going to, at this time, we'll bring Jill up, and she's going to share a little bit about what the Chamber's doing, what we did last year, and what we plan on doing this coming year, and all the new events we have planned. So she's going to share a little bit about that. So y'all welcome Jill, our new Chamber manager.
Good morning, everyone. We are so happy that you're all here with us this morning. I'm not going to ramble a whole lot, so we can get to the real reason why we're all here, Congressman Jody. So we want to thank y'all for taking time out of your morning to be here. We know that y'all have businesses and things going on, and it means a lot for us, for y'all to be here. Also, I want to thank y'all all for being so patient and great, welcoming into the community this year. I'm new, and I know some of you are probably sad that Casey Morris is not up here because she did a phenomenal job, and I just really hope that I can fulfill her shoes. She did just a really great job, and she did a lot. So thank you for welcoming me and making me feel so comfortable. So we're going to go ahead and get into our chamber events for the year. So if you'll look on the far right column of your agenda, there is a list of our chamber events. So of course, we're going to continue to do every event that we did in the previous years. We feel like those are just really great for our community and for you as well as businesses. So we're going to continue to do our chamber breakfast every year. In our chamber banquet, everybody can kind of mark your calendars. That's going to be May 4th. So we will have Jake Hooker playing this year. Does anybody know who Jake Hooker is? There you go. Okay, so they are a Texas swing band, so they're going to play about 45 minutes for us. So we're really excited to have them. They're great people, and they're always dressed in suit and ties for every performance, and we're so excited to have them. So that will be May 4th. I didn't get to experience last year's banquet, this being my first year. I know that I think they had a really good turnout, and it was just really a first-class event. I've seen pictures, and I've heard all of what they put into it, so I'm really excited for this year, and I think that y'all are really going to enjoy it. So that will still be May 4th. We'll move down to Small Business Appreciation Week. So with that, it's an entire week of celebrating small businesses. I always say that without small businesses, we wouldn't have a community. If those small business owners are feeding their children and their families, and these big box stores are buying their 7th Ferrari. So I think it's just very important to support your small businesses, and without them, we wouldn't have this great town of Muleshoe. So that's basically what that week is about, is celebrating them. So we'll move down to the July 4th celebration. I'm a bit nervous about this one because it is such a great and huge event, and they just did a phenomenal job, the board members and Casey, putting that together every year, and they have grown it into something incredible. I have got to be there the past 2 years since we've lived here, so the streets are just filled with people and smiling faces and, pageants and food, and it's just wonderful. So I'm so excited to do that. We're going to continue that and hopefully grow it bigger and bigger. I think they had a great turnout of floats last year, so we really appreciate all of the businesses and people that have come out to participate in the parade. So Small Business Saturday and Christmas tree lighting, we start on that Saturday. This year it was the 24th, I think. So we start that Saturday, and then that afternoon we do our Christmas tree lighting. So I think Casey explained it to me as a Hallmark movie. So that's kind of what we're shooting for. We would like the whole entire town to be out there and just fill the street in front of the chamber office as we light the Christmas tree. That's our goal. So we start that Small Business Saturday, And we, for every person that shops at the participating businesses in town, which those businesses will give us a gift card or a product, and we will put those in a big basket underneath our Christmas tree. And for every $10 that someone spends shopping at those stores, we give them punches on a punch card, and they fill that card, and they go in for a raffle. And then we raffle off that huge basket. So it's a really great time for people to get out and support. I mean, you're going to buy Christmas gifts anyway, so let's buy them at our small businesses. So we will continue to do that as well. And then lastly, our Christmas parade. This year was my first year to do the Christmas parade as well. It was awesome. I think there was a phenomenal turnout of floats, and people again filled the streets, and I just thought it was a really great experience, and I was very fortunate to be a part of it. So we will continue to do the Christmas parade and hopefully grow it bigger and bigger every year. So we have also discussed there is a time period in the fall that's kind of slow, not much going on. So we are looking at throwing in an event in that time. We're just hoping to find the right one for that time of year. So we'll keep you posted on that. And if y'all have any ideas, what y'all think may be good for our community and town, please let me know. Email me, call me, come up to the chamber, and let's see what we can get figured out for the town. And lastly, I want to let you all know that I'm here for you, and please use me. If you have something you need to advertise, or you have an opinion, or anything you think that might be great for us, please let me know, because that's what I'm here for. So I'm really excited to be in Muleshoe and work with y'all, and y'all are just a great town. So thank you for having me. I'll turn it back over to Trevor for our business portion.
All right, so we're going to skip around here a little bit on the agenda. We're going to go back and see if we can get Steve to offer up a prayer for us and just bless this year, bless this food, and just bless our time together. So go ahead, Steve.
Y'all would, let's pray. Lord Jesus, we just thank you, Lord, for all that you provide, all that you do. As you bless this food and our time together, Lord, may we bless you. Continue to be a guiding light for our community and especially for our country. And Lord, just bless guys like Jody Arrington as he struggles to lead this nation. So Lord, as we know you fight for us and you prepare the way, we just give you thanks and we give you glory this morning in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Steve. All right, so we're going to transition into the business meeting portion. And you know, we're required by our bylaws to have this meeting to go over the financials and the minutes and to approve those. And so we officially open the business meeting, and if you'll look on the back of your agenda, there is last year's minutes. So if y'all will quickly read over those, and if I could entertain a motion to accept those minutes, get a second, whenever you feel necessary.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, so the motion carries on the minutes. And we'll talk about the financials briefly here. So we should have another sheet there with last year's budget and last year's actual revenue and expenses. As you can see there, we set a goal of 70 members, and we actually reached that goal. We had 73 members, but you'll notice the number being lower than the proposal, and that's just because we offer business memberships and then single memberships, you know, for individuals. So we had several of those single memberships, which is why we have that 8490 number. A big thing for us this year was merchandise sales. We had a lot of revenue from those things. A lot of people want to be sporting Muleshoe, which is awesome to see. You know, we got people from all over I think the country wearing our stuff, so that's pretty cool. I won't go over every one of these, but as you can see, kind of the final number on the revenue, what we proposed, we were going to bring in $67,500, but we actually brought in over $75,000. So that was really good. It helps sustain us through the year and helps us put on bigger and better events and hopefully provide a better opportunity and experience for you guys. So moving on down here to the expense side of things, let's see, we did pretty well on sticking with the budget. So one thing I do want to point out is that under the charitable expenses category, we actually gave a pretty good gift to Dan. I forget his last name. What is his last name?
Yeah, that was supposed to come paint.
Yeah, I believe his name was Dan.
Yeah, but I can't remember.
But he was the one that we had invited to be at our chamber banquet, and he was going to paint and do our entertainment, and he ended up being diagnosed with cancer, and so we had to, or we didn't have to, we were blessed with the privilege of sending him a check for $1,000 to help kind of pay for those expenses that he had to take care and to hopefully beat that cancer. So I haven't heard. Do you have an update on him? I know you were
The last, he was doing good. He was still fighting.
still fighting though. All right. So it was good to be in a financial situation where we could actually write that check and be of assistance for him. So that was pretty awesome. To be a part of that. So the end of the year, we came out, over $10,000 ahead, which is very good for us. So I know if you go back a few years, the chamber didn't even exist. We had to start from square one and just start rebuilding things, and we have come a long way thanks to the past board members and Casey being the president, all the things that she put into it. And so we're excited about what's to come, and with Jill being on board, I know she's going to bring a lot to the table as far as new ideas and new things to help Muleshoe and the chamber grow. So I believe that's about it for the budget and for this year's or last year's expenses and revenue. On the third column, you'll see the proposed 2019 numbers. We talked about in our meeting that, hey, we keep growing. What can we do to keep growing? So we kind of set a number out there of about a 10% growth on a few areas. As far as membership, we want to have 10% more members this coming year, and merchandise sales, we want to push that more and hopefully get our apparel and goods out there further. Let's see. Another thing we want to try to do, let's see, what are we gonna do this year? We're gonna probably have some maintenance things come up for the chamber building that we'll have to incur to keep that place functional and safe and comfortable. So do y'all have any questions on the budget from last year and this coming year? Anything at all?
Trevor, just a question of curiosity.
Yes.
How did we do 6,200 off of the carnival? How does that work?
So that is a percentage of sales. At the carnival that came into town last year, they were here for, I don't know, 4 or 5 days maybe. and they were highly successful, and they were I guess, let's see, they were willing to give us a percentage of those sales. So I'm not sure exactly what that percentage was, but that's what that number comes from. So we were blessed to have that additional revenue just for them coming to town. So that was awesome.
Trevor, one more quick question. So I noticed here on merchandise cost, we got $10,300, and then our sales were $10,200. So I'm sure y'all have some inventory, but do y'all try to make money when y'all sell that, or what kind of margins are
We
y'all?
still have quite a bit. I mean, we probably have, I mean, this is just a number out there, but I would say $5,000 to $6,000 left in inventory that is still unsold. So we would like to, one of my goals this year maybe is to hopefully maybe get a website going and help people that are out of town that have lived here previously that want to buy. They have no way of doing that. And so they either have to come to town on the 4th of July or rely on being here to actually get something. So I would love to be able to push Facebook sales or website sales maybe this year and get some of that old inventory out and prepare for new. So, but yeah, we've only sold, I would say, half of what we bought, so it's still in inventory. Let's see, is Jody here yet? Let's see, he is. Okay. All right, so if there's no further questions, I guess we'll entertain a motion to accept the financials. We need a motion and a second for those.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion and a second, so the motion carries. I guess that concludes the business portion of our meeting, so meeting is adjourned. And perfect timing. Congressman Jody Arrington just walked through the door, so he can make his way on up here. And so Jody, he's a member of the Agriculture, Budget, and Veterans Affairs Committees. He serves as chairman of the subcommittee on Economic Opportunity for Veterans Affairs. And he also serves on the Joint Select Committee on Budget Process Reform. And he is a West Texas boy. You know, he was born and raised here, and he has a passion for this area and this state. And we're just excited to have him here again to help, you know, benefit us and bring just the updates and news on from Washington, D.C. So we are thankful for him to take time out of the schedule to share with us. So I would love for y'all to welcome him with a warm Muleshoe welcome, Congressman Jody Arrington.
Good morning. Good morning. You don't know how good it is to be in West Texas. Spend a little time in the swamp. It is great to be home. It is great to be with family and friends. And Trevor, thanks for the introduction and the kind words. And he said that I'm going to give you all an update on what's going on in Washington. Nothing. There's always something going on, and there's always news when Donald J. Trump is our president. I generally spend about half my time, you know, responding to the interactions between our president and the media and anyone else. He's a fighter, and you know, he's absolutely, doggedly, relentlessly committed to doing what he said he would do when he campaigned. And you know what? That's refreshing. To have a politician say one thing and not do another when he gets elected. So whether you like him or you don't, whether you like what he's doing but not what he's saying or how he says it, I think this president is a godsend to this country. And as a guy that spent my first 2 years in the United States Congress, I can tell you that he has had a lot of influence in pushing us to do things that I don't know that we would have done without having him in the Oval Office. And there are a lot of guys that don't want to get on the wrong side of President Trump. I don't mind criticizing him. I can tell you where I have. I'm committed to the Constitution. I'm committed to West Texas values, and I'm committed to my constituents. But this president's agenda is my agenda. I might say things a little differently, but I don't know that, again, I think these times, I tell folks, Ronald Reagan inspired me to do what I'm doing now. I'm one of the Reagan's children. You know, I was influenced. I was just at that right age where I was awestruck by his leadership, and I was inspired as an American just listening to him on the news. I mean, a whole generation of people like me were impacted and inspired to do this public service because of Ronald Reagan. But you know what? And when I prayed for this country during that 2016 election, like everybody else, because I felt like we were losing our country, and I felt like we were just right there on the precipice of breaking one way or the other, and I didn't want America to look like the European Union. Well, in my mind, when I was praying, I thought we'd get Ronald Reagan, or God would raise up a Ronald Reagan. Well, he raised up a General Patton. And that's what we need right now. I'm just telling you, we need a fighter. We need somebody strong, and we need somebody that says, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. Get out of my way or get on the train because we're going, man. We're going to save this country. And somebody that would punch back at the media, national media. The local guys are good. They generally just tell it straight, and they generally report it as it is. But the national media, to say that there's bias may be the greatest understatement of my entire speech this morning. And he's going to hold them accountable. And if he doesn't, I don't know who else will. So I didn't mean to start the speech off with a treatise to Trump, but I'm proud of him. I really am. I met with him recently. I was one of a handful of members of Congress that had lunch with him to discuss the shutdown and the debate on border security. And every time I'm around him, it just reaffirms that he's the guy for the job, for the season. One day we'll probably need a Reagan, because we'll probably need to bring together this country, and there'll be some real healing that needs to happen. But right now, man, we need to fight and claw and scratch just to keep this thing from going off into the ditch. You know what I mean? I think you know what I mean. It's been a privilege to represent West Texas. I don't have to tell y'all, to wear that West Texas rural America jersey, man, to say that I come from the food, fuel, and fiber capital of the world, pretty awesome. And our colleagues from all around the country respect our farmers and ranchers and our oil and gas producers and energy operators. They respect what we do, and my message is real simple, because if you try to do too many things and you try to say it too many ways, you won't get your message across. I'm for ag, energy, and rural America, because I'm for feeding and clothing our citizens, and I'm for energy independence, and I'm for the values that agriculture in West Texas and rural America represents. Because if you want to make America great again, it's going to be a whole lot more than just fair trade deals, tax reform. It's going to be the sort of it's not the breadbasket energy that's the most important, it's the backbone. And that backbone is the stuff that this community is made of, and that the families out here believe in and stand for, and all that good stuff. So we had a really good and productive first term, I must say. You don't ever get everything you want, you don't ever get accomplished all that you set out to, but I'd say that the big ones for me, top priority was getting cotton into the farm bill. Safety net, Title I. You know the story, and you know the disaster of having cotton outside Title I. Well, we got it in the farm bill. It's permanently fixed, and it's improved. I would say it's better situated because it's got coverage for not only the lint, but also the seed. So check that box and put a plus by it, because we got it in there, and we've improved its situation with respect to Title I coverage. The other would be just getting a farm bill done. I mean, there was a time when I thought we might let that thing slip, and we would have the 18 bill expire. That causes a lot of disruption where we already have too many things that are uncertain in the ag industry, right? That would have been horrible. Probably worst of all, we'd have given it the pen over to Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats to rewrite it. So I'm very pleased with what we did on the 2018 Farm Bill. Now, I'm happy to take your comments and questions when we're done, but the safety net is stronger. We protected crop insurance, which you got to do every time because it's always under attack. Grassley's attack on the AGI and the family, engaged family component, we fended off that. We've got more flexibility for the young beginning farmer. We increased the loan limit for the FSA loans. You could always do more, but it was a budget neutral bill. We had to work within the fiscal constraints, and I think we delivered a really good bill. Margin protection program increase for my dairy guys. Again, I'd like to hear your feedback on whether it is going to impact you in a small way or significant way. But up to that 5 million pounds, now that it's not margin protection program, it's the margin cover program. But we improved that. When we got cotton in the farm bill in the bipartisan budget agreement, it was outside the farm bill. The 2018 bipartisan budget agreement, $800 million into the margin protection program for dairy producers. So the president's been working on trade. I'm all for what he's doing with respect to fair trade. I think there's no such thing as free trade without fair trade. We need to be able to compete on the same playing field and a level playing field and under the same conditions and rules that others, producers and manufacturers, are operating under. And because if we don't, then China and other countries will put us out of the food making business as sure as they put us out of the strategic metals making business. And listen, they want to take America down, I don't mind saying that, without firing a single shot. And we've got to be able to, at a minimum, protect the things that we make that have national security implications for this country. Steel, aluminum, food, and other products. And again, this president knows exactly what they're trying to do, and every other president and politician before him knew. But they never had the guts or the courage or the staying power to bring them to their knees, to the table, and hit reset so that they're operating like everybody else. No other country can do that but America. And no other president I've seen be able to do that other than Donald Trump. And I tell him, my farmers, my ranchers, the ag producers from West Texas, they're behind you, Mr. President. Now, they got to feed their families, okay? And those tariffs, they have an adverse effect on them. And the soybean guys and Others are more affected, some sectors of our ag economy are more affected than others. But I said, if they can stay with you and still keep the family farm, they're going to stay with you because they know what you're doing. And I told him once at a meeting, I was the only guy from Texas, and it was a discussion about trade and some of the fallout from tariffs, and people were in there pretty much whining to the president. And I said, Mr. President, I want you to know our guys are for you. Texas is for you. And we want somebody fighting for our team. We're not asking for a better deal than other countries, but we want fair deals. And I said, I've got a story from my backyard. We're the largest cotton producing region in the world. And we were #1 as a country in cotton production until we let China dump cheap product on the market, until we let them subsidize their cotton farmers. And there was a time just a few years ago, we were selling our cotton at 60 cents a pound and they were selling it at $1.20. Mr. President, they took us from #1 to 3, and if it weren't for a farm bill and what little support they get in terms of a safety net, we wouldn't be in the cotton business. And I mean, he got it. And I said, look, we get it. So keep doing what you're doing and keep fighting for our team and make sure that we can compete, because our producers are the most efficient. We got the best technology, and we got the hardest working people in the world. And so that's a formula for, like they say, not energy independence, energy dominance. That's how we have always been the economic engine of the world and the envy of the world. But it's real hard to compete with state-sponsored industries, you know? I mean, how do you compete with an industry that gets subsidized by its government, like China did and does, because they get developing nation status in the WTO? So there's a lot of work to be done there, a lot of work. My position on this deal with the Farm Bill is, the Farm Bill is about safety nets, and it's about infrastructure investment like the broadband so we can bring high-speed internet to rural communities. It's about sustainability. You ought not to make a living off of farming. You ought to be a good farmer. You ought to be a good dairyman. You ought to be good at what you do. And if you're not good, there ought to be elements of competition that ought to weed out the bad guys and the good guys. You ought not to be propped up by the government alone. That's what the Farm Bill is. Now, here's what I get to do now, and it's a huge blessing for West Texas. Y'all, we just got appointed to the Ways and Means Committee. It's the most powerful committee in the United States Congress. It's the oldest standing committee since 1789. About 75% of all legislation comes from that committee. About $2 trillion of the federal government spending comes out of that committee. It's tax, it's trade, it's healthcare, it's welfare. I mean, it's a big deal. And we lost Christy Nome from South Dakota. We lost Lynn Jenkins from Kansas. We lost there was a gaping hole in ag and rural America at the table. And we spent a year working to get on that committee. So we finished the farm, and I wouldn't have left ag without the Farm Bill done. But we got Farm Bill done. We got 4 or 5 more years. U.S. policy is set. Sustainability, hopefully, is there, and it's real, and it's reliable. Now, we need to look at prosperity, not sustainability. How do we grow our size, our piece of the pie? It's going to be more trade deals. It's going to be access to more markets. It's going to be better access to existing markets. So we get to be at the table, West Texas, ag, rural America, on Ways and Means. That is a huge deal, guys. So, that's kind of my view and vision of kind of what's next. What are we doing next? We're gonna work on and work with our president to make sure we got better trade deals and more access to new markets and a bigger piece of the pie. Because we don't want to just survive, we want to thrive, right? Okay. I'm not going to go into tax reform. I'm not going to go into rebuilding the military. By the way, providing for a common defense is our #1 job. I'm going to say it again a different way. Protecting the American people is the #1 job of the federal government. We can debate how much we ought to be involved in ag. We can debate how much we ought to be involved in healthcare. We can debate whether we ought to have, this healthcare system or that. There's no debate in my mind, and I hope not in yours, that our number one job is to make sure that the American people are safe and that we protect our sovereignty, we secure our nation, and that there is no question that those who are on the front lines of that, whether they are wearing the military uniform in the armed services, or they're wearing a border patrol agent uniform, or we're supporting our men in blue who keep us safe in our communities. That's our first job. And if they don't have the tools and resources they need, then we should be like tunnel vision until they get what they need before we go on to all these other things. We put the largest down payment in rebuilding our military than we've had in over 15 years. We were losing more men and women in training-related exercise than on the battlefield. We have the oldest and smallest armed services in the history of the United States. A third of our planes, we have an Air Force base in Abilene, Texas, the largest B-1 bomber base in the nation. And a third of our planes can't fly. About half of them aren't combat ready. It's scary when you really dig down into the details of our readiness. And it's because we cut $200 billion over the during the Obama era, $200 billion. And we continue to spread our troops thinner and thinner in more conflict, in more theater. And we're not giving them what they need. And we're losing them in training accidents going to battlefield. Now, is that shameful? I hope you feel like it is. But I'm proud to tell you that we put that down, and we're going to continue to work to rebuild. That B-1 bomber base is like, so they're phasing out the bombers, a couple of the bombers, B-1 being one of them, they're going to retire. Well, Abilene, Texas feels a lot like, in that big country area, feels a lot like the western part of my district with respect to cotton and the farmland. I mean, cotton's billions of dollars to our economy. It's billions of dollars to the state's economy. We lead in cotton production in the state. Well, you know, the equivalent of that for Abilene is Dice Air Force Base. So during the campaign, the big deal was we got to get the B-21. It's $1 million a day to their economy. And, you know, they lose the B-1, and we lose the B-21, which is the next generation, and we're not basing it Dice. I can tell you it would fundamentally change the economic landscape of the big country. Just like it would change our landscape if we didn't get caught back. So the Secretary of the Air Force is signed, sealed, and delivered the B-21, and for the remaining 80 years of the 21st century, the flyboys and flygirls are going to be flying B-21s, projecting American strength and American power and American freedom around the globe. Anywhere in 24 hours, our airmen have Dice Air Force Base. You know that whole thing with Kim Jong-un and the North Korean Peninsula? Every now and then we send one of our airmen in a B-1 bomber just to kind of tip their wings just right out along the DMZ, just to let them know. You know what I mean? It's easier to have diplomacy when you look up in the sky and you see the B-1s coming. You know what I mean? So, peace through strength. Ronald Reagan. Peace through strength. And I will say, I think our enemies are beginning to respect us again, and I think our allies are beginning to trust that we're going to be able to reform again. How about moving that embassy? How many presidents and Congresses have passed resolutions and made campaign promises to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem? Oh, it sounds good on a campaign trail. Oh man, everybody loves it, gives you a standing ovation, and then they'll understand when you really can't do it because there's a lot of complexity, you know, and I've been briefed and I now understand the nuances, and so move it. And the world was going to collapse just like with net neutrality. The internet would be gone as we know it. Because that's how people, people will die in the streets if you repeal Obamacare. We made good on our promise, and the world takes notice of that. And America is restoring its leadership in the world, I promise you. So, I'm awfully proud to be, here to tell you that we've done some good things. But I'm also would tell you I have disappointments. I wish we'd have gotten health care. I wish we would have repealed Obamacare all the way. Now, we repealed the individual mandate in the tax reform, that's good. But we had a health care reform bill that was good. And I think that it would have allowed the markets to bend the cost curve, because healthcare is still the biggest drag on our small businesses and our middle income and working families. No doubt about it. It's a huge tax on our businesses and families. You remember the thumbs down? Remember that vote? Man, it just broke my heart. We were one vote. And we've been talking about repeal Obamacare for years. They even had the symbolic send that Obamacare repeal to the president's desk when Obama was president, knowing he wouldn't sign it. Real disappointing. In my party, mainly in the Senate, because we got it out of the House. Other disappointment is we spend too much money, and the biggest threat to our country is North Korea and the illegal immigration. It is the national debt. And we're now $1 trillion deficit spending, 20+ trillion in our debt. We will spend more on the interest to service the debt for this country than on all of national defense in less than 10 years. If and when we go into a sovereign debt crisis, you can forget talks about farm bills. That'll be the first thing that's going to be cut. It's hard enough to defend farm bills now. They'll be the first to go. Our military and this whole rebuilding so that we can strengthen our defense and project power and peace through strength, that's going to be hit. There isn't anything that we do as a country. And the worst thing of all, your grandkids will have a really bad economic situation, the likes of which we've never seen, maybe seen except the Great Depression. And you think I'm just trying to scare you. We don't know when it's going to happen. We just know that when the dominoes start to fall in Greece, you couldn't get it back. And so we got to change that. And I've been on the budget committee. The budget's great. Budget committee is a great platform to message. The budgets that we passed that balanced, they made it out of the House. The Senate didn't pass it. I know now that the budget committee really doesn't have a lot of teeth and power. But you know what does? Ways and Means. Because Ways and Means is where you can actually get after that spending. And most of the 50% of the spending is mandatory spending. It's the entitlement programs. And we've got to do something about that if we care about the future of our country, if we care about the life our kids will live. The shutdown. Anybody want to know anything about the shutdown? I want to know about it because I'm not getting paid either. I've waived my salary until we open up the government because it's the right thing to do. I haven't made a big deal about it. I'm not posting it and I'm not putting a press release out, but I'm telling you that because I don't think it's right for 800,000 federal employees not to get paid and for us in Congress to get paid. In fact, that's what we've got to do. I introduced bills like no budget, no recess, no budget, no pay. I mean, Congress, Republican or Democrat, I hate to say this because I would wish my Republican colleague could act differently, but if we don't force fiscal responsibility on Congress, it won't happen. I hate to report that, but after 2 years, I think I've come to that conclusion. That's why I'm for a balanced budget amendment. Texas has it. Every state has it. And Congress needs to have it. Because I just don't see any self-discipline, any self-regulation on spending. I wouldn't be for shutting the government down for just anything. I think it's disruptive to the lives of our fellow Americans. I think it's disruptive to our government operations. If it were a shutdown over all of government, it would disrupt the military and other key functions of national security and public safety. But we have 75% of the government online. But if there was ever a reason to use that in a negotiation, it would be for issues related to national security. And I'm telling you, I'm convinced that we have a crisis at the border. That's not a political talking point. It is real. I've met with sheriffs and chiefs of police all over these rural counties and communities that I represent. And then I met with the chief and the sheriff of Lubbock. The drugs would shock you. The gangs and the cartels and their presence in our backyard would just shock you. And so y'all know as well as I do that that border is wide open. And y'all know as well as I do that just like a lot of things, we've gotten promises to do this or that, and the can was kicked down the road, and nothing happened. This president, just like he's doing with China, he's going to do the same thing on border security. Do I think a wall is the panacea and silver bullet to securing the border? No. Do I think it's a component of it? Yes. Do I think it's as basic as fencing around your homes? Yes. Do I think it's ridiculous for somebody to say a wall's immoral? Yes. Why do I think that? Because the Democrats have voted for 700 miles of fencing, $25 billion. They voted for the last budget agreement, $1.5 billion for the wall, and they live behind the protection of walls and fences, and they're going to say a wall's immoral? Man, I've heard some silly, absurd things. That's about as absurd as I've ever heard. Just like I told them on the CNN. Now we're beyond unreasonableness in these negotiations. We're talking about irrational behavior. So, if this president wasn't trying to negotiate with faith and putting DACA and focusing the wall where we need to have it and not even saying it's a concrete, whatever they want, whatever they need and wherever they need it, he's been bending over backwards to negotiate. And that's why I think we've gone on long enough. We've caused enough disruption to these workers. In another week, we will have cost the economy of this country and this shutdown, and the cost of this shutdown will have exceeded what we're asking for the physical barriers. Now, ain't that something to try to explain to your people back home? So what I've told the president, and what I'm going to start saying more and more, this is the last opportunity for the Democrats, and I'm glad he did it, and I support it. I think extending DACA, first of all, these kids were brought here by no fault of their own. If there's any group out of the folks who are here illegally that we ought to provide some peace of mind, I'm not saying citizenship, but I'm saying some legal status to be here if he died. I think it's fair, I think it's reasonable, I think it's compassionate, and I think it's a good negotiation posture. If the Democrats don't move towards the president, if they don't show good faith, reciprocation, then I'm telling the president, I'll be one, I'll probably have others join me, to declare a national emergency and get on with it. Build it because it's our people and their safety that's at risk. We've already deployed the military. Remember, that was going to be the end of the world, and we actually deployed the military. Let's declare an emergency. We're never going to get somebody off a negotiation when they claim walls are immoral. Build it, save that DACA chip, come back and use that for broader immigration reform like H2C and other things, right? Like asylum policies, like sanctuary city. Save that and just go do it and unilaterally build it. Now, I wouldn't say that if I didn't think it was justified, but the law allows him to declare an emergency. It allows him to use the Corps of Engineers and the military to build physical structures to defend our sovereignty and our nation's people. And so I've already said it, I'm gonna just say it louder and louder. And you know what? If he hadn't offered this last deal, which it was a real concession, it was a real, genuine, let's try to find a win-win, then I would have had a more difficult time. Okay, she's giving me the 10 minutes on it. I'll just stop there and let you guys guide me where you all want. And that's my update. My family and I are real proud to represent you, and I hope you know and believe and what you read and watch and what you hear from me, that we're fighting for you and we're fighting for our country. And nothing makes me more proud than to be a champion for rural America. I believe in it. I'm just a shepherd boy from Plainview, son of a tractor salesman. My parents have been staying with me for the last few days. I brought my daughter down. I mean, you know, I'm just you. That's all I am. I mean, I may be a more screwed up version of you, but I'm you. You know, and I'm the chief of sinners, and I'm all those things, but I'm you. You know, I just want this country to be safe, strong, and free for my kids. And there is a battle going on for the heart and soul of this country. And quite frankly, just to kind of go off from a little bit from the path of a legislative update, and it's got to start with me, it's got to start with my heart, it's got to start with my family, it's got to start with my relationship with God, and I'm struggling to manage all that with this new job and this new life. I'll be frank. It's so busy to go to 29 counties. It's so busy to try to build a coalition to get cotton back in, and to build a coalition of 434 other members. I love it. I'm passionate about it. I get up every day saying, thank you, God, that I have this calling on my life to do this for my people and for my country. But America's great because America's good. Don't ever forget that. Remember, America's great because America's good. And just like Alexis de Tocqueville said when he made that statement, he followed up by saying, when we lose that goodness, we'll lose the greatness. We're not great because of a government. I love the freedoms we have. I love we're the freest country in the world. I love that we have the greatest economy, and I love the free enterprise system. Oh, by the way, we're going to do a whole lot of, when I say I'm going to fight and defend what we believe in, I'm going to defend our free enterprise system from the big government socialist agenda that's coming our way in the House under Nancy Pelosi. Okay? With all due respect, I'll do it the West Texas way. I'm not going to call people names. I'm just not going to give up our freedom. I'm not going to let America become socialist Europe. But more than our commodious harbors, as Alexis de Tocqueville said, more than our fundamental God-given rights, what made America great and what will make America great is the goodness of our hearts. So, I'm not a pastor, but what we need more than policy is prayer. What we need more than reform is revival. So if you'll join me in saying, God, help me be the goodness that Alexis de Tocqueville was talking about. Because you know when he said that, what he was referring to? Everybody used that quote. You know what he was talking about? He said, I've looked high and low for what made this little country great. How this little fledgling country became the superpower. Just like that. He said, I found it when I went into the church. The churches that had pulpits aflame with the gospel of Jesus. So I'm not trying to trample on whatever you believe or don't believe, and I'm not trying to be your pastor. I'm too much of a sinner to be your pastor. My brother's a pastor. He's qualified. I'm not. As soon as I decided to run for Congress, I was wholly qualified. But I'm just telling you, if we can just keep praying, keep believing, and start. You know, I used to pray for revival for this country. God has totally changed that. I'm just praying for revival for me and my heart and my faith. It's easy to pray for revival for you. It's harder when I start asking for him to do it, because then he starts showing me what that's going to require. And I'm not sure I'm all there yet. I'm still wrestling with it. You know what I'm saying. Keep praying for this country. We'll keep fighting, doing what we do. Keep me straight on the issues. Keep me knowing where the pain points are. And then we'll just keep trying to do what we think's right. Okay, questions? And I hope I filibustered enough that I can get out of here without one question. Yes, sir.
Congressman, we throw billions of dollars a year into the United Nations, and it's an organization that threatens our constitutional republic. They are against individual gun rights. They support mandates, environmental mandates that threaten our agriculture industry, among other things. Also, they promote abortion through the guise of population control. Congressman Rogers of Alabama has introduced H.R. 204, which is the, I think, the American Restoration, or Sovereignty Restoration Act of 2019.
Write that down. Write
Do you
that down.
support that, and what are your thoughts?
I'll read it before I tell you I support it. But I support us being part of the international community, but I don't support us subsidizing the international community. And I think there's a difference. We're leaders. We are the leader of the world, and we should act like it. And the only way to influence people, it's kind of like this thing about our faith. You can either stay in the comfort of the pews of your church, or you can get out there and you can interact with people and you can lead and influence and enter into a relationship with people. I think we got to be a part of the international community. I think that's important. But I think it's condemning the things that should be condemned. It's calling, it's calling evil by its name and holding people to account. I mean, it's a joke in many ways. The Human Rights Committee of the UN, I mean, I think they have some of the chief human rights violators on there. I mean, it is a joke. But rather than to retreat and isolate, I say step up and lead and call it out and reform, like with NATO and UN and others. And I think that's the way to approach it. So I'm not for isolating but I am not for status quo for sure. So I'll read that and I'll get back to you on whether I support it. And I agree with everything you're saying, and it makes me just as indignant as it makes you. I think it's just how do we best address it as the leaders of the world, and that's what we are. A lot of it is how we conduct our own business back home. A lot of it is how we deal with others in trade. A lot of it is how we approach conflict. So, I mean, leaders lead by example. And so I think we have to look at our own house, kind of like this whole pray for revival. First, take an inventory of where we are in America and deal with some of that, but call it out and reform it and don't subsidize it. I mean, I also don't like the fact that we're subsidizing these guys. It's kind of like that Paris Treaty. I mean, we were subsidized. I mean, that was a bad deal, and the president was right to pull out. So, and I support that. And I support him pulling out of the Iran deal. That was a window dressing, if I ever saw it. That was just a way for a politician to try to stake claim to some legacy of denuclearizing and providing stability and peace. It was baloney. There was no accountability there. So, I'm with you. Other questions, comments? It's good to be back out here, man. Hit me while you can. Yes, sir.
Congratulations on being on the Ways and Means Committee. What's your top 3 goals for being on that?
Well, that's a great question. Number one, trade, prosperity, growth, not survival. Tired of surviving. Tired of surviving. Got to survive before you know, if you can't breathe and you can't live to farm another day, you can't really look up to say, okay, how do we get into the Asia-Pacific region? That's what I told the president. I said, you want to put the screws to China? Let's do more free trade. Take up the TPP. Doesn't have to be TPP, but go into that Asian market because our cattle guys, we got the best beef in the world. But dadgummit, I mean, Australia gets a no tariff basically. It's a low tariff. And we got this big old tariff, and we're still whipping them. Imagine if we didn't have that big 45% tariff tax. And we could do that if we just get in the game with them. So we got to walk and chew gum at the same time. We got to be able to get MCA, USMCA, NAFTA 2.0 done. We've got to be able to hit reset with China and work on more trade deals. So you're going to hear me talk a lot about that. I'm going to become smarter on it. I'm still learning. But I want growth and prosperity for West Texas, for agriculture, for energy. That's one. 2, rural health. I think one of the things I'm very proud of is that we were able to do some things for our community hospitals, rural hospitals. My thing is rural America and communities like Muleshoe and agriculture go hand in hand. If you can't sustain one, you won't sustain the other. So we chose healthcare as a centerpiece for rural community sustainability. We were leading the effort on the low volume, these are called Medicare extender programs. But basically it's this. You don't have a tax base. You don't have a patient base to be able to cover the fixed cost of a hospital. It's very difficult. You just don't have the patient volume. And your payer mix is terrible. You got more Medicaid, more under and uninsured than the big city guys. So the bottom line is we need to make sure that the reimbursement is there and the support is there to sustain that. So there's a partnership, an investment. If you want our food, fuel, and fiber, United States of America, and you like ag and energy independence, then we're asking for a little tiny investment in sustaining rural communities. Healthcare is where we chose it. So we help get the low volume adjustment, Medicare dependent, ask the rural hospitals. Those are critical for their survival. The other thing is we put an amendment in the Farm Bill to allow community hospitals to refinance at a lower rate through a program that comes out of USDA for rural development. So we got some things done. But the real player in healthcare policy is Ways and Means. Here we go. Now we can do, those are just Band-Aids, in my opinion. Look, you need a Band-Aid so you don't bleed out. So we're trying to make sure we don't bleed out. Farm Bill, don't bleed out. Now let's grow. Healthcare, don't bleed out. Now let's figure out how we have a 2-tiered system and not a one-size-fits-all, because the hospital here, the hospital there, in Plainview and Seminole and Denver City, they're different than the Houston Memorial Hospital. They shouldn't have the mandates and regulations that they have. Obamacare put $50+ billion in additional regulatory cost. Our little guys are operating such a thin margin. We've lost a lot of hospitals. This district that I represent has more rural hospitals than any in the state of Texas. And Texas has more rural than anybody in the country. So we're going to be leaders in that. We're going to find a way to skin the cat where we're not having to go with this program and that program and tie this up and tape this together and use some baling wire to do that. I mean, that's we make them work too hard. Let's just figure it out, two-tiered system, remove some of the burden, remove some of the needless mandates that are not even relevant to small hospitals, and let's get them going. That's two. Third, for me, is the national debt, and that's just a bigger, broader discussion about how we approach that. It's also making sure Social Security, which is insolvent in less than 10 years, that you and I get the benefit, we get the benefit of Social Security as a safety net for seniors. It's gone. We don't have enough workers to pay for it. We have 10,000 people retiring today from baby boomers. It's a real crisis. I mean, nobody talks about it because they're afraid to talk about it, because seniors leave feeling like I'm going to take their Social Security, but I'm going to keep talking about it because we got to do it. And so we got to reform Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Those are the big ones. So I'd say that'd be my three priorities for. But always being a champion for rural, ag, and energy. Everything we do. If it's tax, how's it affect the rural, ag, and energy? You know. Last question, and I'll get out of here and let y'all get back to your meeting. I know you want to ask me something. You just want to embarrass me.
I'll ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
2 years ago, roughly, Chuck Schumer was talking about how important border security is. As a West Texas guy, how do you watch these people flip-flop on issues like this, like from one reasonable way to irrationality, without beating your head into your desk until you're unconscious?
Did I show you? Come here.
Like, it just wears me out. I'm like, how can you even be in the middle of it and not just go crazy?
You know, here's the thing. I hope they don't fall on. I got to dress like a guy from Muleshoe today, and not from Washington. Thanks for letting me dress down a little bit. I'll get to this, but I want you to hear this. It's important. And I feel like this is what I need to say. We in America, our country makes up 5% of the world population. But we have 20% of the immigrant population. No one is kinder, more compassionate, and more welcoming to the immigrant than the United States of America. Don't ever let anybody tell you any differently. And don't let this debate skew the facts around that statement. Number one. Number two, your representative, because I'm a West Texan with West Texas values, welcomes any freedom-loving, law-abiding person from anywhere in the world to come to this country and be an American, as long as they respect our laws, our sovereignty, and the safety of our people. Period. No qualifier, no caveat. Pretty simple. So don't let anybody make you think either in this debate for a minute that your representative and others who happen to be on the conservative side of politics and policy, that we don't love the immigrant and the immigrant story, which is quintessentially the American story. Okay? As they say, it's not that we hate what's in front of us, it's that we love what's behind us. I love our core values. I love our constitutional principles. I love this country, and therefore I want to make sure that the new blood that's coming in is the kind of blood that when it mixes with the existing blood just makes it better and greater and stronger and freer. That's all I want. But right now, we are deluged. 2,000 a week and climbing. And those are just the people that come over here for that we engage. More children now, more families. It is up 90% year over year in the last 2 months. And here's the sad thing. By having an open border de facto policy on the border and having a de facto amnesty, that is, when you get here, we're going to have to catch you and release you into the interior of this country. Half of whom will never show up for their deportation hearing. The docket is such that it's 2 to 5 years before you will ever get your hearing. So why bother? So because of our de facto amnesty and de facto open borders, we're actually encouraging people who are struggling, who, if you and I were in their position, would want to fight to get into this country. But we're basically rewarding people and encouraging people to come into this country illegally. And as a result, poor people are being exploited, children are being abused. 1 out of every 3 women are sexually assaulted on their way over here. So when we say it's not just a national security crisis, it's humanitarian, but we're aiding and abetting that with our policies. It's not compassionate to encourage somebody to take a trip and risk their lives and have their daughters raped in order to get over here and their children abused. And for them to be taken to the cleaners, be used as a mule to get drugs into this country that have completely wreaked havoc on our communities. 70+ million people. I'm going to go back on that. 70+ thousand people, more than we lost in the Vietnam War last year, died of a drug overdose. 300 a week die of heroin overdoses in this country. 100% virtually is coming from across the border. So whether it's Officer Singh that's now dead and his son that will live and grow up without a father, or it's the drugs that are destroying our communities, or it's the fact that we have a social safety net that's already bankrupt, that will not be there for my children who are citizens, that we spent $150 billion on in cost, $12 billion in the state of Texas. There's just tremendous societal cost to this, and there's all kinds of wrong about this. So we're going to stand with the president, and we're going to call him to just, they say break glass in case of emergency. I'm breaking the glass. Build the wall. Build the barriers. Put the fence up around our home. And then start working on the magnets. Start working on the loopholes, like the asylum policy. And then let's really take care of this. And you know what? While we're doing it, let's make becoming an American, when you're the right person and family, to be a part of this free nation. When you're ready and willing to pledge an allegiance to this flag and to this Constitution and to contribute to this country, make it easier. Make it more efficient. Make it less costly. I don't want just the wealthy. I want the tired, poor, huddled masses that they say on Ellis Island, right? So I'm not saying we can't fix that. We should. We should. And as a rural economy, ag economy, we need to. Isn't a dairy person in here that doesn't believe that? I believe it. So, yeah, there's a lot of good people trying to have a better life for their family. We can help them. But we can only help them if they'll get in line like millions of people do. Millions of people. And then we got to stop all this riffraff.
So is it just the need for a vote that makes a guy like Chuck swing from one end to the other? I mean, it's that simple.
It's two things. It's two things. And I said it again on CNN yesterday. I said it is because of the irrational behavior, because of the irrational statements like walls are immoral, and because of the level of obstinance and recalcitrance, just dug in, like we're just not going to negotiate. It's really purely political, purely. Because there are a lot of folks out here that would say that DACA, extending DACA, that's wrong, it's amnesty, I don't come back and not get questions about why would you support extending DACA. Trust me, come to Lubbock with me, come to the next GOP party meeting and, you know, pick a county. But you know what? Even Ronald Reagan said, you don't get everything you want, and a half a loaf is better than no loaf. And let me tell you something. If we don't negotiate and make some concessions and compromise, then we get what we get, which is today, hundreds of thousands of people coming into this country, released, de facto amnesty. So, I mean, you're either going to be pragmatic enough to say, okay, there's going to be a point in time that we're going to have to give some stuff in order to ultimately put an end to all this madness and this mess, right? But it's purely political. Two things. They don't want to go back to their radical left part of their base. They're afraid of them. They're absolutely afraid to go back and say, we had to give and take, okay? Anytime a politician's afraid to go back and explain why it was a better deal for our country and that we put our country above our party, anybody that's afraid of that is not worthy to be in the United States Congress and not worthy to lead this country. That's where they are. So they're afraid of that, and here's the worst part of all, I think. And I don't want to put this on every Democrat, because there's some good ones. I've made some good friends. 7 of 8 of the bills I introduced with a Democrat. The term limit bill that we introduced, the only bipartisan bill introduced with a Democrat, and because of that, we got the president to endorse it. Because it's right and good to do bipartisan work. It's the most sustainable, and it makes you, I think it's good for this country to do more of that. However, there are too many people in this debate on this issue who would rather see the president lose than America win. There's the answer. Anytime you don't have the guts to come back and explain to people why you think this is on balance better for our country, and any time that you would rather the other team, which is crazy because anytime you can't believe that ultimately and first and foremost, we're all on the same team, and it's more important that America wins than a party or a person, the hatred for Trump is off the charts. It's off the charts. So that's it in a nutshell. And it's what makes me sad, and it's also what makes me angry. And I'm trying to be a happy warrior because angry warriors long term don't do that well. But there's a time for everything. And if there was ever a time to get angry, it'd be on this issue. Hey, I love y'all. I appreciate you. Keep praying for this country. Keep praying for me. And y'all keep letting us know where you need help and where we can provide assistance. Okay? God bless and go West Texas.
Our 2019 board is President Trevor Turnbow. Our Vice President is Basil Nash. Our Secretary and Treasurer is Dusty Stone, which couldn't make it today. Board members are Scott Miller, Susie Brown, and then new to the board is Sarah Santos and Jesus Tovar. It's your 2019 board.